Let's talk trees. Trees are green, right? So here's some green. Plenty of green. And let's paint a tree. Now, does that say tree? Sure it does. Pablo Picasso was in a show once. Somebody said to him, "That doesn't look like a duck." And his answer was, "It's not a duck. It's a painting of a duck." Well, these aren't trees. These are paintings of trees. They don't have to look like trees. However, if you want them to look like trees, then we got a little work to do. One of the first things we can do is get a green that looks like a nature green. Let's start with a purplish kind of blue and an orangish kind of yellow. Now we have a green that's sort of a much more natural kind of green. That's one way to go. Another way to go is to start with the purplish blue again. And this time, let's go to a lemonish kind of yellow. And now we have a very different kind of green. But in every case, we have greens that are much more realistic than that green. What we don't want to do is go to a greenish blue and a greenish yellow and mix up this mess, because if your name is Matisse, or if you're in the highway sign business, you may say, "Wow, that's what I need." But if you're in the real life landscape business, that's not what you need. Let's clean up now and start again. If you're a beginner, you're going to have a lot of trouble with trees unless you understand a fundamental concept. The concept is how trees are constructed. First of all, every tree has a shape. A tree might have a shape like this. A tree might have a shape like this. A tree might have a shape like this. Let's take a tree with a shape like this. It's going to have a trunk, and then it's going to have a branching structure. And this branching structure is going to work like this to fill out the shape of the tree. Each of these, let's call them major branches, has a bunch of minor branches. In effect, what the tree is trying to do is put a uniform group of leaves in its own shape. But in real life, that doesn't quite happen. What happens is you're going to get a bunch of leaves. And of course, you're going to get bunches in here too. And after a while, this thing's going to start to look like a tree. It'll look like a tree based upon its shape, and it will also look like a tree based upon the shape of the clusters of leaves. For instance, here's a willow. this side, and maybe a birch on this side. The thing is that when we do a tree, what we want the tree to be is a bunch of clusters, and here's your biggest single issue. These cannot be even. If they are even, it's going to look a lot more like a raspberry than a tree. Get the clusters approximately into the shape of the tree. Remember that the tree is denser in the middle, but leave some holes showing through the tree here and there, and it'll look a lot more like a tree. The same goes for any shape at all. The clusters have their individual shapes. Evenness is your enemy. I've already noticed that I've got lineups here, and that's a problem. I have to destroy those lineups, or I'm going to have a very bad looking tree. And in the case of this tree here, well, it's a Christmas tree, so we'll just do some of these. Now, of course, there's some in the middle too, so you can't just do the one sticking out the side. And the trunk would show, and there's a tree. So that's how we create a tree. I want you to know the shape of your tree, and I want you to know the shape of the clusters of leaves on the tree, and that's all we need to really get going. One of the things you can expect me to talk about forever is light. Yellow is light. I don't know why, but it kind of is. Here's a little yellow, a little blue, a little my purplish blue, and I'm going to make a light green, a yellow green, a definite yellow green, and I'm going to paint the light of a tree. Let's take this tree here. And now I'm going to paint the dark of that same tree by taking a little more blue and putting it in and deciding where my light's coming from. Okay, my light is coming this way, which puts my shadows over here. I actually need darker. I need a lot more color here. Just enough yellow to give me a green. Okay, here we go. We have a tree. We really need to close up some of these sky holes. A healthy tree doesn't have too many, but it does have a few there. And there would be the tree. And just for the heck of it, let's stick a trunk on it for now. Now, you can have a similar tree that's, let's say, an entirely different color. Balanced in shape. Trees aren't balanced in shape unless they've grown with no other structures or trees near them. However, it's always nice to Try to balance them because they're prettier that way. And so here's the same color, a little darker, and I'm going to put in my shadow again. Want some variations in color? Let's throw in a little bit of, whoo, that's a lot, isn't it? Also a lot of water in there, a little genuine red. And I definitely have lost the darkness on that side. There we go, there's a tree. And it needs a trunk. Trees also can be quite blue. So here's some of my blue again. And a little bit of an orange here to neutralize the blue, make it into a blue-green. And of course now we can have a, not being careful, am I? You actually don't have to be too careful with trees. They kind of form themselves. And in order to shadow it, I'll just make a stronger color and put the shadow on the same side again. There we have blue spruce, I guess, whatever that is. It's good enough. It's a tree. It certainly reads tree.